Watch out, Trots about! There seems to be an awful lot of hysteria these days about Trotskyists. Now, with all subjects of moral panic, Brexit, the war on terror, swine flu, I always find it helpful to get down to brass tacks and try and work out what is actually going on before deciding whether or not we should be terrified of it. So, what the blue blazes is a Trotskyist? To answer that, join me on a journey back in time, past the 90s, who already called on what they look back, to Russia in 1917. Disclaimer, this explanation is not one for the purists. I'm aiming for under 4 minutes, this is YouTube for crying out loud. Cutting a very long story short, the workers and peasants in Russia at that time decided they were fed up with relentless war, famine and slogging their guts out all day for land barons and big investors. So they had themselves a remarkably peaceful uprising, bumped off the Tsar, and took over the state and the main bits of the economy, which was in itself a really good idea. A socialist idea. It was always going to be a big ask because Russia's economy was not brilliant to start with. It was mostly like small farms and factories that were a bit crummy. Barely anyone could read, but point is, the idea had legs, especially if workers and peasants in other countries were able to pull off the same thing. We'll come back to that later. At this point, the governments of share and land-owning elites around the world got a little bit perturbed at the prospect of their power and fortune being seized and collectively shared by the masses, and thought, hey up, a good war will sort this one out. So 21 armies were sent to try and break the revolution. Kind of like the Hunger Games, but real and worse. Trotsky set up this army called the Red Army and saw them off. Good move. Because the country was kind of under siege, a section of the party that had led the revolution, the Bolsheviks, headed up by Stalin, I haven't got any books by him, became pretty comfortable in life. Going back to that issue about the toiling masses taking control of governments and economies the world over, it suited Stalin and his bureaucracy to only have socialism in one country. Because without a siege, without enemies, without a sense that it's the great united Soviet Socialist Republic versus the world, then what was the point of their bureaucratic regime? Precisely zero. So Trotsky and his supporters fought a political battle against the Stalinists, which ended up in many of them being killed. Trotsky got exiled to Mexico, where he continued to build support for socialism, not just in one country, but in every country, until he was also assassinated by one of Stalin's agents. Took an ice pick to the head. What this has to do with Jeremy Corbyn is complicated. Jeremy Corbyn is a socialist. I don't agree with him on everything. Homeopathy is bad science, man. But a socialist he is. Now you can have socialist politicians passing socialist laws if you like, which I do. Take the NHS for example. It was set up, publicly owned, everyone pays in what they can, takes out what they need. Good shout. But all the time there are private corporations trying to buy it up, pharmaceutical companies with their political lobbyists leeching money out of the service. The NHS will always come under attack. So because of this, and I don't know where JC stands, I don't think we can exclusively limit ourselves to legislating away the worst things about capitalism. I think we need a nice clean breakup of profit-driven society. And pragmatist that I am, based on the Russian workers and peasants experience, I think a socialist transformation of society needs to be democratic and international. That makes me a Trotskyist. Hi. The right-wing bit of the Labour Party, the plotters, don't think there's any alternative to having slightly less bad capitalism, and sometimes not even that. So they're trying to undermine Jeremy Corbyn's message of hope and human solidarity by creating a desperate moral panic about trots like me who want to nationalise Snapchat or whatever. Just like George Bush and Tony Blair used the war on terror to justify their smash and grab of Iraqi oil, just like the Russian Stalinists who maintain their power and wealth by keeping the workers and peasants in a constant state of fear of the outside. Don't fall for it. We don't have peasants anymore, not even in Kent, but we do have poverty, hunger and war. The vast majority of the population still slog their guts out, day in, day out, lining the pockets of the rich and powerful. A democratic, socialist society is not just possible, it is absolutely necessary. And if you agree with that, then maybe you're a Trotskyist too. Share, subscribe, see you later.